Good evening and welcome to the public hearing of the Board of Mayor and Aldermen. It is June 2nd, 2020. It is 6:30. Call this public hearing to order. First order of business is Ordinance 2020-03, an ordinance to amend the City of La Vergne zoning ordinance by changing the official zoning map for tax map 14, parcels 36, 36.01, 36.02, and tax map 14F, Group A, parcel 1.01, consisting of approximately 9.05 acres located adjacent to 301 Bill Stewart Boulevard from a R1 low-density residential zoning district to a PDR, planned density residential zoning district, with a R3 high-density residential-based zoning district. This received a favorable recommendation from the Planning Commission on January 28th, 2020. If anyone would like to come up and speak about this, please step up to the podium, state your name and address for the record. You can address the board.
Mr. Mayor, members of the board, thank you all for having the meeting tonight and allowing us an opportunity to speak again about this project. Dwayne Cuthbertson, 40 Middleton Street, Nashville, Tennessee. I'm here in support of Ruths Place, an age-restricted community proposed on Bill Stewart Boulevard. The development before you is a well-thought-out residential community. The engineer, the owner have worked countless hours with city officials as well as members of the community to design as complete a community as possible while addressing the important technical issues as well. The community before you proposes a variety of housing types. Allowing for varying price points for those in the community that are 55 and older. Again, it is an age-restricted community. The site is situated very near many existing neighborhoods, so it allows an option for those maturing with their housing needs to stay in the community, near friends as well as institutions and services that they've come to value. The plan has many elements that will directly benefit those who call this community home as well. It has elements that will benefit the city of La Vergne. The site plan before you is a traditional layout that shapes new public streets as well as open spaces to be pleasant and inviting. The layout is complemented with a healthy landscaping package, as well as traditional residential architecture. The site plan proposes a community center for this community as well as for those in the city age 55 and over. This site plan is also one that uses its open space as well. It proposes a multitude of open spaces that will allow folks who live in this, who call this community home, to incorporate many outdoor activities in and around their home and meet those in the community. The site design is also considerate of many technical issues. Traffic, it provides generous parking, as well as it provides connectivity to Bill Stewart through the site to those who are moving into the Hollandale subdivision to the north. So it does provide the city of La Vergne with that connectivity element to help diffuse the traffic. It also has a pretty technical plan to address drainage issues, which we know are pretty common. The development does add value to the city of La Vergne. It adds to the tax base as well. It works with the existing fire station to improve access. It significantly improves the streetscaping on Bill Stewart. So the experience on Bill Stewart will be vastly improved when this development is complete. The proposed development also helps the city to start addressing the broad issue of affordability. It's an option. It's not the end-all be-all, but it is an option that is very much needed in this city as well as the region. It's an option that will allow folks who have lived the majority of their lives in this city to stay in this city. With that, I'll rest.
Thank you. The floor is open. If you give us just a moment, Mr. McGowan is going to just wipe that down for us. Thank you, David. If If anyone would like to come up and speak, please state your name and address for the record.
Danny Womble, 40 Middleton Street, Nashville, Tennessee. I'm the project engineer for this project. We started this project in July of 2019, so next month it will be 1 year that we've worked on this project with numerous meetings, numerous plans changes to address the comments that we've gotten from your staff, your planning staff, your engineering staff, your planning commission members, your planning commission body, as well as incorporating input from this body through this period of time. So through this 1 year process, we think we've developed a very good plan. And as Dwayne pointed out, it's got a lot of design features in it that has addressed concerns and comments that we've received along the way. I think the most important thing we did is we held a meeting with the Senior Center September the 4th, 2019, and obtained a lot of input from seniors here in town. From that meeting, we learned that the project needed to be a rental project, not a for sale project. Many of them explained that they couldn't buy a property, but they could rent the property. Also, it was pointed out to me that in the event if someone became sick and could no longer live in the unit, or God forbid, if someone passed away, their children inherit the unit, the children couldn't move in the unit and couldn't live in the unit because it is age restricted, and that's one of the benefits of this zoning. One of the objections I've heard, one of the concerns is, what is to keep people from taking one of these units and have younger people live in it, like a rental unit or something of that nature? The zoning, by design, limits it to an age-restricted occupant of 55 years and older. And it will be professionally managed by a group that makes sure that that doesn't happen. Some of the other objections, the affordability, we've talked about that many times. 40% of the units will be one bedroom, 60% will be two bedroom. This will force the units to be of two different categories, two different prices, and the people that only need a one bedroom unit can rent a one bedroom unit. The majority of the houses in Laverne are 3-bedroom, 2-bath units. Another thing we learned at the meeting at the senior center was that seniors that no longer want to live in these 3-bedroom, 2-bath houses really have to leave town. They go to Mount Juliet and live, they go to Smyrna and live. They can actually retire in place here, and it's properly located, in my opinion, next to the largest subdivision in Laverne, probably the largest subdivision in the state. There's probably 5,000 homes in Lake Forest Estates and the other developments around Lake Forest Estates. Being next door to the fire station basically places the fire station almost inside the community. What better location could you have if there is an emergency in the development? As far as this traffic objection that has come up here of late, generally the trips that are coming from a senior community don't align with the peak trips of people that are going to work first thing in the morning during rush hour and coming home at night during rush hour. So the traffic generally is not going to increase on the roads because of that. It's located on Bill Stewart, which is a major collector street in Laverne. It has two entrances in and out. There's a connection to a public street from Hollandale Estates. So there's two ways in and out should there be some road blockage for some reason in one of the entrances. So I will just ask you to approve the project tonight. Thank you.
Thank you, David. Once he has this sanitized, if anyone would like to come up and speak, podium is open. Please state your name and address for the record.
Good evening. My name is Debbie Hewen, and I've lived on Randall Lane at 431 for 20 years, a little more. And I have seen the area grow, which I understand growth has to happen, but responsible growth is important. And I guess I'm a senior. I didn't think I was going to be a senior till I turned 65. I've already passed, well past 55. I'm 63 years old. So I don't know where they're getting the idea that there's not going to be traffic out of old folks like me at 55 or 63, because I'm still going, and I still go with and get stuck in the traffic. And in fact, I was going on April 15th, and I've heard people refer to as Sand Hill and Fergus is one of the exits for Lake Forest. Well, I'll let you know, I got hit by a concrete extension pump truck. If you want to look that up, it's a huge piece of equipment. I got hit by one making an illegal maneuver on Sand Hill, and it totaled my car out, and I'm still going to the doctor and physical therapy and all kinds of stuff because of it. So it's not safe on these little roads. And as old as I am, if I'd been younger, I probably would have been killed because I wouldn't have known to throw my car into reverse. But I'll tell you what, Fergus Road, I can't tell you how many times I'm coming down that and almost get hit by people driving, speeding, coming over the lanes. I also have seen where I've had to turn around and go back the other way, where traffic's been blocked up for probably a good mile, where there's been wrecks on Fergus Road going close to Bill Stewart. And it's not safe on that street. Fergus Road is not safe. Bill Stewart going back into that area is not safe. You've got the trailer park full of people that drive over on one side. And then you come into the whole menage of houses coming off of these little subdivisions off to the right and the left and then into Lake Forest. You have a lot of heavy traffic there on a road that I consider to be unsafe. And if they want to cut off of Fergus and go down Sand Hill and take their life in their hands there too, they can. But it is another exit if you want to get hurt. But it's not safe. And my biggest concern is the traffic and the safety of those roads in that particular location. As far as senior housing, I'm all for it in the right location. I think over there by the traffic circle, that land over there would have been perfect for a little planned area for the seniors, for senior housing either to buy or to lease. Another thing, saying that some of these seniors can afford to lease, but they can't afford to buy. It's actually cheaper for somebody to buy a house now than it is for them to pay rent. Rent is through the roof still, and expected to continue to go through the roof, even though we don't know what the housing market as far as sales is going to be. But I can tell you, everything I put on the market sells within the first day of showings with multiple offers for full price or more. So there's people that can buy houses and save money on their monthly output rather than rent, because rent is just ridiculous right now and probably will be for the next few years. So I don't know which seniors are going to be able to afford rent, whereas they're not able to afford a house, especially a house they've been living in for years. I mean, my house is too big for me, but it's cheaper for me to stay where I'm at than to even go buy something or go rent something. You know, I couldn't rent anything for what I'm paying on my house, and most people couldn't. So don't be mistaken thinking that a senior can afford rent when they can't afford to buy a house. It's just not true. I mean, I've been doing this for over 25 years, and I know it's not true. And unless they've got bad credit and they just can't. But how do we know that this housing unit is not going to judge them on their credit scores, just like you would if you're buying a house? Because I know numerous people who've tried to rent and get turned away because they cannot pass the credit scores, and they have to be judged on, they have to earn at least 3 times the amount of what their monthly rent is. You know, how many seniors actually earn 3 times the amount of what rent would be, say, on a $1,000 or a $1,500 monthly rental? So please take that in consideration. If they were doing this anywhere else, and I told them before, a long time ago, if they did senior housing or 55-plus community over there where the traffic circle, I would be behind them 100% of the time. I'd be carrying the banner and the flag. But over here, it's just the wrong area. The other area would have been perfect, near the greenways, near the lake, near the traffic circle to get out easily to Murfreesboro Road from near Schreiman. So I think the intention of what, or the concept of what they're doing is good. The location is terrible. And in my business, location is everything. So please consider the traffic. Please consider the sirens that the people living in the senior housing would be hearing all the time, every time the fire department has to let a fire truck out. I mean, that doesn't sound very peaceful to me. It seems like it'd create anxiety with the people. I mean, I didn't know 55 was old, but I guess it is. And if there's anybody that's 55 years old and able to retire and stay home and not drive very much except to the store, more power to them. I don't know many. I know people that are still working into their late 60s and early 70s. So for right now, that's all I've got to say. So please consider the safety of the people, just like you did over there when they were trying to build apartments over there off of Blair Road. Thank you.
Thank you, David. Again, as soon as he is finished sanitizing the podium, if anyone would like to come up and speak on this rezoning, you can come up, state your name and address for the record, and address the board.
Derville Drive. I am not a public speaker, so I have written it down, so forgive me while I look at my phone. I am here to encourage you to vote no on this ordinance at Bill Stewart. I moved into a very nice, peaceful neighborhood 10 years ago. Nowadays, my Facebook newsfeed is filled with drive-by shootings, filled with gunshots, car burglaries, package theft, people walking around just opening other people's cars just to move things around and mess with them. And our police is already understaffed. They do an excellent job, but they're understaffed. How are they going to handle more theft? And what adult child would want their parent to move into an area where this is the commonplace? Someone just posted today on Hip Laverne about somebody taking a BB and shooting her window. How is a senior going to feel safe in that? We need to get on top of the crime before we try to add more people and pack this place in like sardines. Thank you.
Thank you. Again, David. Great job, David. Again, the podium is open. If anyone would like to speak on the rezoning ordinance, please state your name and address for the record.
My name is Mary Jane Skinner. I've lived in Laverne for 58 years. I'm 85 years old. And I was at the meeting at the senior building, when they talked about the building the senior center out there. I myself could not afford to live there if I had to pay rent. My home's paid for, but I think it's a bad place for seniors. As the young lady stated, you have the trailer park there. You have the fire department. Bill Stewart, Fergus Road is very congested. I travel that road sometimes when I want to go to Walmart's. Most of the time, go down Stones River Road. I've been here since Lake Forest subdivision opened up. I used to hunt in that area. I taught my boys how to hunt in that area. And where the new senior building is going to go, if I remember right, there's some sinkholes back there, unless they've been filled up. Very low-lying areas back there too. So, take that into consideration. And some of the buildings, I understand, housing building they're gonna have there will be upgraded to where you'd have your patio and all this stuff, which is a good thing. But I think just a simple little house for a senior would be adequate. That's all they need. I know I couldn't afford one of those places up there at the price that they quoted that day at the center. And I think we need a new senior housing area, and it should be one level, because a lot of these seniors cannot climb steps I know I had surgery on my knee, and I'm having problems climbing steps, and I'm only 84 years old. And and I know how some of these seniors feel about climbing areas and stuff like that. And I think it would be a good thing, and as the young lady stated, I think around the traffic circle would have been an ideal place, because it's walking to the store, the lake, and there's a lot of little areas there that a senior could benefit from that area. So, thank you.
Thank you. David, if you would please. Once he's finished sanitizing that, if anybody would like to come up, speak on the rezoning, feel free to come up, state your name and address for the record.
Hello, my name is Rochelle Hoover. I reside at 353 David Bowen Drive, and I am opposed to the location of this new center. The idea behind it is fantastic. We're already the biggest subdivision in Tennessee. I'm very concerned about the traffic on that road. I travel that road 4 times a day because my daycare is off that road. We're very understaffed in our police, who do a fabulous job, but don't want to burden them. The difference between 18 homes to 145 is a lot. There's big, heavy construction crews already all over in that area building. So the building that has come along in the last 2 years is amazing. It's, even where I live, has come up 200% from where I lived 2 years ago. So something else is, I'm 44 years old. I have a 2-year-old. When I'm 55, I don't get to move to this and retire to this because I have a child that will be in school. I have somebody, so it kind of feels a little bit of discrimination. I just feel like the other property also by Stones River is right by the senior center as well as the lake and everything else. And I'm very opposed to the location, not the ideal behind this project. Thank you.
Thank you, David. Once he finishes cleaning the podium, if anyone would like to come up to the podium and speak on this rezoning, you can.
Tomer Minuskin, the owner of Lake Forest Homes, one of the builders in town. Wasn't planning on speaking today, but I was sent something very interesting that I wanted to read to you. Thank you, Steve No and Matt Church, for your voices at the workshop. It's highly obvious what is going on here, and I'm glad someone finally spoke out against the actual virus that has been infecting Laverne for the past 30 years. You and you were tagged. You said nothing. Okay. Virus. Who's the virus?
Mayor, can we suspend the rules to answer his question?
Well, this is a public forum, so you get to speak to the board about specifically this rezoning item, but it's not a dialogue.
Okay, I do take issue with their votes if they describe the developer as a virus, or if they say nothing about it. The world is built of people who do and people who don't. The lands were for sale. They had an option to buy them. They chose not to because they chose to not. Mr. Schreibman chose to do. He bought them. Your homes were once forest. It's easy to preach to others, but if you want to do as you say, you will take your house down and you would plant trees. You will not do that. You won't. Bill Stewart Boulevard, Laverne Lane, near Schreidman Boulevard, you love to complain about them. I see it. You love to complain. Those streets would not exist if it wasn't for that guy over there. They wouldn't. You like to complain about the traffic. That road near Schreibman, why is it called near Schreibman? Because it was once his land. He chose not to build on it because he wanted to alleviate the traffic. You need to understand that, and you need to know that. You need to do your research.
You need to understand it needs to be an end.
Shh. The fire station on Bill Stewart is there because he donated the land for it, not anybody else. If I was a senior, I would want to live by a fire station, so if I fall, there's going to be someone over there to pick me up, because I know that my late grandfather, more than a few times, had people to come pick him up, and that was the fire department, not the police, the fire department. So it's actually the ideal place to put this senior living. And I am upset, and I do not want to consider your votes as legitimate if you're going to vote no for something that was favorable, because it's obvious that both of you chose not to say anything when a human being was described as a virus. Thank you.
Thank you. David, if you would, please. Again, the podium is open. If anyone would like to come up and speak about the rezoning, please state your name and address for the record.
It's me again, Vern. I hate that somebody would describe Mr. Schreiman as a virus. I've known him for years. He's a very nice, courteous man, a gentle soul, but he is the smartest businessman that we've had in Laverne. I think he's very smart, wise businessman. I know there's people that don't like him. Some people can't separate what people do to earn their living with who they are as a person. So I know I've been described in some really nasty ways, and I've seen people not stand up and say something and correct them. I've seen you not correct them. I've seen you not correct them, because you don't want to get into the cat fight, and I understand it. And so as far as condemning somebody, these two, because they didn't speak up when they saw something, and I didn't see it, but condemning them for not speaking up when they saw a post like that. There's hundreds of posts every day on Facebook that I object to, that everybody objects to, where people we don't know and people we do know that are being criticized or called names. But, you know, we can't hold somebody that didn't get into the cat fight accountable because they didn't get in there and fight it. And I don't remember seeing the post myself, don't know where it was posted, but to hold two of the aldermen accountable for what somebody else did is just unheard of. And as far as a fire station, yes, fire stations do help seniors when they have emergencies and can't get up when they fall or whatever. I do say that, but it would also, from my perspective, as a senior, I guess I am a senior, it would cause anxiety every time I heard fire engine alarms. And it kind of causes anxiety just living back in the neighborhood and hearing all the police all the time. You'll see posts on Facebook saying, what was that? Why are the police going there? There's 10 of them. There's 2 of them. Why are they there? You know, it causes anxious people to be bothered when they see these alarms and stuff. You know, as long as it's not out my front door and one of my neighbors close to me, I'm fine. But I mean, our fire department does the best job they can with the manpower that they've got. They don't have enough manpower. And to bring in hundreds of other people in a senior complex like that until we beef up the fire department and beef up the police department, which I think it's going to be hard to get more police officers right now. I know in Nashville, they can't get anybody to apply. And so it's probably going to come this way too. But I don't think we have the manpower for fire and police to take care of what we already have here in Laverne. And I think it's going to take years before we do. And I'm a real estate agent. That's how I make my living, is builders that have built houses on what used to be farmland or woods and everything like that. And I know I see posts where people are all upset because they're cutting down all the trees and stuff like that, and they get mad because Lake Forest is here. Well, I am Lake Forest. I live in Lake Forest. And you know, where are you going to put the people? Yeah, you've got to put the people somewhere. So they've got to cut down trees. And like Tamir said, if you don't want them to cut down the trees, buy the land yourself. And you can do whatever you want with it. But as a business person, they're gonna try to develop it, and they're gonna try to do something with it. But what I would like to see is responsible growth in a city this size, because they're not making land anymore. And for them to use that land for that purpose, I can see why they wouldn't want to put just a handful of single-family homes on there, because they're not going to make as much money off of that land. But what they're doing, any kind of townhomes or grouped homes type things like that, put back there in that area right now, is just the wrong time. It's not right. And plus, until Laverne steps up and finally does something about Fergus Road and Sand Hill Road, you know, we're never going to be safe to travel on there just with what we've got built back there already. We're not safe driving on those roads. And I'm thankful that Amnon, I guess, donated the land to build near Schreiben to get out of the subdivision going towards Nashville. I mean, that is my go-to if I can go that way. But I can't always go that way. And, you know, but we need more of that. We need, Fergus Road needs to be widened. We need something to slow them down coming up to that curb. And everybody knows what I'm talking about, near the tinting place, the window tinting place, where so many wrecks, and I think maybe fatal wrecks, happen. And until we can take responsibility as a city and be fiscally responsible and give the people who already live here a working infrastructure that's safe and good for all, I mean, what are we doing? We're going to put more people back there at risk that are seniors? I mean, apparently we're at 55, we're helpless, and we're not going to drive much. But I can tell you that's not true. The seniors now are more active than they've ever been in history. And they're working longer than they've ever worked in history. And like Mary Jane said, she couldn't afford to rent it. I don't know. I'm not going to ask what she makes a month as a retired person, but I know most of the people I know that are retired couldn't afford to rent an apartment, a one-bedroom apartment right now, you know? And I just think it's wrong. I mean, I would like to see in the future, in a different area, I would like maybe at the end of, I forgot what that road was, that had all that land that guy tried to get rezoned from industrial to residential. Maybe that area, that's going to go up for sale. And maybe the city gets something like that and actually do a senior community that, you know, the city could actually make money off of. If they go through the housing committees and different things like that, they could actually make money. They could have revenue coming in and charge affordable rent. They could get grants. There's a way to get grants for things like that. And I just think, you know, I want to see Amnon make all the money he can, but not at our expense and not in that area. Not right now. And I don't want to beat a dead horse, so I'll sit down.
Thank you. David? If anyone else would like to come forward to speak on the rezoning, Ordinance 2020-03, the podium is open. You can come forward and state your name and address. Is there anyone else? Seeing no one else, I will close out the public hearing, and we will move right into the citizens forum. And if I could have the sheet, please, for those that signed up. Thank you. We'll go ahead and open up the citizens forum. We have got 3 people signed up to speak tonight. You will each have 3 minutes. Whenever you hear the sound from Officer Call's phone, you will, your time will be up. If you'd come forward and state your name and address for the record. First, we have Mr. Amnon Schreiben.
Mayor and Aldermans, Amnon Schreibman, 519 Mabel Mason Cove in Lake Forest in Laverne. I'm going to repeat what I said in the public hearing, I think it was in February. It was about 20 years ago when I had the opportunity to do the project for old people on a Mason Circle. It was kind of an unusual story. I was approached by one of the builders that was building with me in Lake Forest, and he asked me to have a meeting with the Greek Orthodox Church of Williamson County. And I asked him, what's the story? What do you want me to do with them? And he said, go and meet the people. So here came 3 or 4 people, older people. All of them are very classic citizens, retired people. One was a medical doctor, the other one was an engineer, the third one was an attorney. And they started to talk to me about an elderly place. They represented a group by the name Hahapa. And I said to them, guys, so what? So what can I help you with? And they said, we heard stories that you know how to walk on water. And I said, I know to do many things, but I don't know how to walk on water. What's the story? And they started to tell me about their organization that at that time, 20 years ago, already had 16 places in the state of Alabama. To make a long story short, we were able to put together a very nice project. This is almost 20 years ago. It have 50 units. It's like a hotel with an elevator, 2-story building. It's functioning perfectly to the best of my knowledge. It's clean, it is safe, it is always full with a waiting list. And this is on Mason Circle, which is a very old, outdated road behind where it used to be the food line in Laverne. And I'm very proud that I took part in putting this project together 20 years ago. The project that you have in front of you tonight is slightly different. It's double the quantity. It's about 100 units. But the size of the property is a whole lot bigger. It's 9 acres versus 2 acres on the project with Zahapa. The business plan behind it is very, very straightforward. In that area, there are about 5,000 families that are living in Heritage Valley, in Lake Forest, in the cottages, in the Mobile Home Park, in Water's Edge. And our approach is that out of 5,000 families, when people are aging, we will always be able to find 2% of the people that would like to stay where they are. They have friends there. They may belong to a church. They know a medical doctor and dentist in the area. They like to go to the shopping place there.
Your 3 minutes are up.
Thank you. Thank you, Mayor.
Thank you. Next, let's let David clean the podium. Sorry. New little habit here. Next, we have Mr. Tomer. I mispronounce it each time. Munuskin.
Infrastructure, schools, roads, fire station. This is the endless question of what comes first, the chicken or the egg. In every city in the history, we've seen growth, and we've always seen people that come and they're naysayers. But when I came here 20 years ago, there were 2 fire stations. Now there's 3. There's conversation about a 4th fire station. That 4th fire station is going to come from all the money that's going to come from the impact fees and the building permits. The schools are going to grow. We're going to have more students. There's going to be pains. The schools are going to be too small. The classrooms are not going to fit. But then we're going to make money from taxes, from the impact fees, and the schools will grow. This happens everywhere. Patience, that's the thing. All of us, once where we lived, like I said before, was forest. There's no doubt about that. But progress, moving forward, that's important. The moment you stay stagnant, the moment you stop, that's when you start rotting. City of Laverne needs to continue growing. One day, I hope, I know that a lot of people don't like that, I want to see City of Laverne to be as big as Murfreesboro. I want to see industrial over here. I want to see commercial over here. They will come if the people will come. Walmart is not here because of our nice faces. It's here because of Lake Forest Estates. If Mr. Schreibman would not do his developments, we would not have people to shop in Walmart. He is the reason they are here, not because we went and spoken with them, talked with them. He is the reason. The city needs to continue to grow. When Fergus Road is actually going to have traffic, we're going to come back to the mayor, to the aldermen. We're going to get a budget. We're going to build roads. The schools are going to be small. We're going to build larger schools. That's the way progress works. Move forward. Thank you.
Thank you. And last, we have Miss Mary Jane Skinner. You can step to the podium as soon as David is finished.
As I stated earlier, my name is Mary Jane Skinner. I live at 792 Stones River Road. First off, I want to thank the police department for their work. They are understaffed. I know that for a fact. But they're always there when you call them, or they have been for me. Maybe they want to keep me out of trouble, I don't know. And the fire department is the same way. When I moved here, we had no fire department, none whatsoever. Our first fire station was a mobile home right up here at Tinkham Tomlin. Mr. Wintermeyer was the chief then. I learned real fast, you don't cross him. He tells you what is what. And I learned to admire that man, and I have to this day. But I hate to see our city being used as I feel like it's being used for profit for certain people. When Lake Forest was first built, people came, we had no problems. It kept growing. The area right next to where I live has been awful. People come in, they're leaving. I see a lot of houses for rent, a lot of houses for sale. And people from big corporations are buying up a lot of these houses and renting them out, which I understood that when that section of Lake Forest was built, Lakewood or whatever you want to call it, that they would not be for rental houses and stuff like that. Right now, right next to me, there is an ARB, whatever it's called. I mean, people are having parties there all the time, and I hear them. I don't mind it as long as there's not a lot of cussing and ranting and raving. Because I do go out and I sit at the pavilion. We have a pavilion where our scouts used to be. Now we can't have our scouts because the parents are afraid to have their children out there. They had freedom. They don't have that anymore. There's no place here in Laverne that the Boy Scouts, and we've had the Girl Scouts out there, can go and be free. Thank you.
Thank you, Mrs. Skinner. David, if you would, we're going to close out the citizens forum and move right into the board meeting. We do have a quorum. The prayer will be by Alderman Church. Pledge of Allegiance will be by Vice Mayor Brown. If everyone would please rise for the pledge and the prayer.
Bow your heads, please. Father, we come to you tonight with open arms. We need some help. Our country is facing a pandemic, an economic disaster from the results. We have black and brown people running for their lives. Our police departments are being targeted. Our government buildings are being burned. Father, if there's ever a time that this nation needs some help, it's now. We do want growth in our community, and we want the people in our community to stay in our community. But Father, what we don't know, we can't predict the future. Only you can do that. If you'll help guide us and lead us to the right direction so we can do as we're told and guide this city. As elected officials, we are only servants of the community. We are not kings and queens. We live in a country where the people still have a voice. And Father, if you will continue to give us the energy to listen, learn, and rebuild this nation as well as this city. Father, I also ask you, soften the hearts on this board, the aggressiveness, the outburst, the negativity. Father, I don't have the answers. If you'll help us, we really need them. Protect our law enforcement as they protect us tonight. Our fire department, give them the tools necessary. They may not have the trucks and the manpower they need, but they have you watching over them with heavenly wings. In your Son's name, amen.
I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all. First order of business is to approve the minutes from the May 5th, 2020 regular meeting. Need a motion to approve.
Motion to accept as submitted.
I have a motion to accept as submitted from Alderman Jones. Need a second?
I second.
Second from Vice Mayor Brown. All in favor? Aye. Any opposed? Minutes passed. Departmental reports. Fire Department. Chief Matthews, believe you're in the building. Thank you.
So does it come over here? Mayor, Alderman, for the month of May, the fire department ran 321 calls, slightly above average due to, on May 3rd, we had the storms come through. We were chasing every power line that there was. That also affected our response times, which is up slightly, about 25%, slightly, just because we were stretched thin that day. But for the most part, everything's just as normal.
Any questions on the Fire Department report?
I have a comment.
Okay.
Chief, you've done a great job as interim. You've kept the torch going, and I personally want to thank you for staying in there, keeping the guys motivated, and moving our city forward. You've made some changes, the design on the cars. It looks good. So your marks, you've made you personalized some things. Thank you. And we have a new chief coming. Your support and your leadership skills he's going to need, and we know you're going to give him everything he needs to pick up the reins. But I wanted to personally thank you for keeping everything together. Thank you.
Thank you, sir.
Thank you.
Moving on to Police Department, Chief Walker.
Mayor Aldermen, one of the things I wanted to do this time is give you an idea of what's been going on, especially through COVID. We have seen a decrease overall in our calls for service for the past 2.5, 3 months. But some of the things I wanted to point out, in April, things kind of decreased a little bit. We don't have our Tibers data yet. That won't happen until probably the end of this week or first of next week to look at May as such for our Group A offenses. But some of the things are here, and that's why I asked Easton to do that. Back up one there, Glenn. It just gives you, back up previous slide. No, okay, go back down. I thought you'd gone down. Go back up or down. Down for you, up for us.
Let's go to the crime summary.
Yes, next one. You can see some of the things and what's there and what's said in it, and you'll have the opportunity to read it, and I'm not gonna read it to you. But go to the next one, Glenn. We're seeing the same thing for the most part across our nation with certain things. Tennessee is seeing basically the same things up until the last week or so, and you all understand some of those. In April and May, we had 30 cases of vehicle theft. But we did recover some vehicles, or theft from vehicles rather. All of them were unlocked. One firearm was stolen, etc. Go to the next one. You see the heat map, times a day and day a week, and those fluctuate day to day. That's just the overall time period for that one. Go to the next one. Motor vehicle theft, 17 stolen from April 1st, 31st, and it's not by our, it's from our residents. And we had, in 19, we had 14 of them. So those are beginning to pick up again at this point in time. But we recovered 9 stolen vehicles, and that's including those from other areas that were stolen. Heat map on that's similar. From April 1st, 31st, 18 overdoses, we are seeing an increase. And we're seeing an increase in calls involving mental health issues and domestics, etc., where there are folks at home together and worried about jobs. They're worried about paying rent. They're worried about eating. They're worried about a bug that could take their life. So there are a lot of pressures on all of us right now, but some it impacts more than others, and we've seen that uptick. Crashes, we had a fatality. We had a fatal crash at Waldron and Murfreesboro Road and near, and we had 2 vehicles there, one waiting to turn left coming south on 41, turn left on the near, and one going straight through north on Murfreesboro Road. And both of them tried to make it through that yellow light because it's yellow on the other side to turn back northeast on near. And it turned directly in front of the man. Talked to Officer John Hughes on the scene. John worked the crash, was a crash report writer. They transported him to Vanderbilt. John went to Vanderbilt, talked to him there. All of a sudden he started bottoming out, and they found after the fact he had a ruptured aorta, and they didn't realize it. They couldn't see it initially on any scans. DUIs, a lot more people are drinking, it seems like right now, especially in the mornings, and all of those we think goes back to the COVID issue for the most part. We don't do a whole lot of plain traffic stops unless they're very serious offenses. So those kinds of things are down, other calls are down, some are up, but those that we would expect to be up are the ones that are like we just kind of hit. Any questions?
Yes, Chief. Want to talk a little bit about, so that the whole board's informed as well as the public, a little bit about what occurred this weekend with our men and women assisting Murfreesboro, as well as, I know, in response to the murder of Mr. George Floyd.
Yes.
And just some of your views as well as some of the observations I've had. I know I've spoken to quite a few of the police officers about this, and have not found a single one that does not support criminal charges for all 4 officers involved in this.
At the very beginning, when everything happened, we discussed it within. Not a single person was supporting those law enforcement officers. Those law enforcement officers took an oath. We talk about it over and over again. Some old guy over there kind of goes back to the way he was raised in his faith. And in the Old Testament, we're told that all nations are made of one blood. We're also told that we're to love our neighbors, just like we do ourselves. Law enforcement's held to a higher standard. That's preached over and over. We talk about our values. We talk about law enforcement code of ethics and canons of law enforcement ethics. And if you don't believe that, you can ask the folks. They hear it all the time. They're reminded all the time. They're on the front wall there in the training room where you see them, and large posters with all those documents hanging where they can be seen. That person who caused that death should have been terminated a long time ago and not be allowed to be in our profession anywhere in any form or fashion. For whatever reason, I think it was probably because there's some type of an agreement that involves another group of people that are banded together that resist any opportunity to discharge someone who is not what they need to be. And I think that may have been the issue there, because I know Minneapolis Police Department is one of those agencies in our country where it's very difficult. The other three, I have a huge problem with. We're also compelled by all of those documents, et cetera, that I mentioned before, to intervene. If you see an officer who is doing anything they're not supposed to be doing, no matter what it is, whether it's to someone else or they're just doing something, it's your responsibility to intervene. If you don't, then you can be held accountable like anyone else, and those other three should be held accountable, in my opinion. My opinion's like others, but mine's based on the way I was raised, where I was raised, in my faith, and my 44 plus years in what is supposed to be an honorable profession. I think it still is. I think the overwhelming majority of the men and women who wear the uniform and take that oath to serve and protect their communities, they're there for the right reasons. And many, many times you can't hold everyone in a profession because of a few. And we have it in many professions. Alderman Noah, I'm going to use for an example. He's driven a tractor trailer. How many miles? You know?
3.7 million.
3.7 million. I've heard people talk about truck drivers all my adult life, but when I was a young trooper working the interstate between Monteagle and Chattanooga, you know how many of those folks bailed out and helped me get people out of burning vehicles and helped me stop bleeding on folks that were out there laying on the side of the road waiting in that rural county for an ambulance to get there. Taking care of others, or see me out there on the side of the road fighting for everything there was in it, blocked the interstate and kept them from running over me, and the bad guy, who was pilled up and drunked up, felt no pain. Also, he was about Steve's size. And I had about 6 or 7 of them out there. Now, granted, they brought tire checkers with them when they got out and came to me, but they didn't use them. But if it hadn't been for them, I don't know what I'd had to do. Maybe shoot him to survive, I don't know. But that wasn't him. Later on, he was totally apologetic. But I'm just telling you, you can't talk about a profession and everybody being bad simply because there are a few idiots. And we have our idiots. We all know that. We have idiots in every profession. Teachers, lawyers. The only problem is we're held to a higher standard, and I preach it over and over to everybody coming through the door on a regular basis. If you don't believe it, come to CPA this fall, if we get to have a fall CPA, come and see what that first night's all about. I walk and talk as hard as I can for 3 hours, talking about those things on that front wall and talking about what it means to have honor and what it means to take that oath. We are held to a higher standard. There are many professions in this room today, other than maybe driving a truck, that if they were charged with a DUI, they wouldn't lose their profession. I would. Fact of life. I'm not singling folks out, but we have an attorney in the room. Miss Mary worked in the school system, even teachers in the systems, and many other people would not lose their profession. We do. That's why we're held that higher standard. We're supposed to be above all that. Excuse me, the older I get, the more emotional I get. And it hurts. It hurts to have idiots like that in our profession who embarrass all of us. Not a single person that I know of, and I've talked to almost every single person in LPD. And these folks will tell you, I've not seen a single person that supported a dadgum thing they did. Having to put hands on and take someone into custody and try to calm them down is one thing. But going beyond that is another. And standing and watching it happen is the same thing, same as. I think they all should be charged personally. Did I properly answer?
Sir, you answered honestly.
We love our community. We love the citizens of Laverne. Yeah, do we have issues? Sure we do. We have people who prey on others, who commit crimes. You just saw the crimes that are committed. Most of those are probably within the city, but some come from outside on a regular basis, and we try to deal with those when we can find them too. But we're still going to hold the ground. We're going to hold that line. We're going to take care of our folks. A young man came yesterday from Antioch and brought his 7-year-old son. He wanted to go to Walmart, but on his way, he wanted to bring his young son in to meet a law enforcement officer so that he could show him that not all police officers are bad. We shared a whole lot. We shared a whole lot of stories. He's an awesome young man, an awesome young daddy. And his son is absolutely just funny as he can be, cute as he can be. But we shared a whole lot. We shared our faith, and we shared a prayer together. And that's a couple from another county that understands not all of us are bad, and that young man understands that. We're going to get him back before too long and let him meet some more when this COVID stuff goes away.
And I'd like to add, because at least in the media, which is there to get ratings, police department is part of government. If there is any systematic breakdown in government whatsoever, it is incumbent upon elected officials, whether it's at the local level, whether it's at the state level, whether it's at the federal level, to make those changes and to listen to the people on that. And most people miss that connection. Y'all are part of government, and government is here to serve everyone equally, regardless of who you are. Police is there to protect and serve. And
that's backwards. Serve.
Serve and protect. I'm sorry.
And then protect.
But it's part of government, and it's incumbent upon us that if there's a problem, if there is any systematic flaw, whether, again, local, state, or federal, to make that change or to be the voice of that change. Any other questions on Chief Walker's report?
There's another former that you could ask as well, plus the other professions. Thank you.
Thank you, Chief.
Hey, Chief, get Vicky to get you a haircut.
This is longest I can remember. I'll be 67 in about 3 months. It's the longest I can remember my hair's ever been. At least I have hair.
Thank you, Chief Walker.
You got you on that one.
David, I don't think that was directed towards you. Codes Department, Randolph Sellers.
I've been chronically bald for a number of years. The monthly report for the Codes Department, we did 4 single-family dwellings, 5 commercial. We did 2 miscellaneous, 5 others to include additions and remodels. Total building permits for the month was 18. The tall grass complaints are gradually picking up. They have had some setbacks over the last few weeks, as we all know, trying to get some of these things enforced. But as you can see, the building inspections have still rolled on. We did 230. Our monthly revenue with impact fees was $12,842. The monthly revenue with impact fees year to date have been $264,066. We did 56 total single-family permits issued year to date. This time last year was 54. And that's handwritten note. We're extracting that data from our history. That's why it's not printed out, so that it's on that report that is coming from Intergov. So, any questions? Thank you, sir.
Parks and Recreation, Mr. David McGowan. You get to hang around this time.
Yep, you ain't getting rid of me that quick.
Wait, are you gonna clean it up for yourself?
Nah, I'll catch it later. Mayor, Vice Mayor Board, thank you. You got the parks numbers for the month. You see a couple of our projects there that we did get completed. Some of our upcoming events, June 13th, we're going to have a block party, and we're going to back that up with the movies in the park on the football field. Block party will be DJ, food trucks, civic vendors, some churches will come out. That's going to start at 5 p.m. The movie will probably kick off around 7:30 at dark. It's going to be Frozen 2. 2 copies of the movie will be raffled off in a drawing, a DVD, and a Blu-ray copy of a DVD. Farmers Market kicked off today. It's going to be every Tuesday from 3 to 7. On our events, the bathrooms will be open, hand sanitizer stations will be available. We want everybody to come out and enjoy themselves, but we do want them we encourage them to adhere to the social distancing guidelines, recommendations from the governor and the CDC. You can see there that our meetings for the month of June have been canceled. Our next meetings are in July. And our playgrounds will remain closed through the month of June. Any questions?
David, notice that you've got July 4th on here. Do you want to talk about that at all?
Oh, we do have July 4th on there. We're in the process of booking a entertainer now. We're going to have food trucks there also. Fireworks usually go off about 8:45, 9 o'clock. We're still going to plan to have those. We encourage everybody to come out. I think we have the space that we can spread it out. It's going to take place on the football field. If you're not comfortable with the football field, we have those outlying ballparks in the areas and the parking lot, so we do encourage families to still come out and enjoy themselves.
And David, one thing I know we've discussed, and I don't know if the rest of the board is aware, but we've talked about the possibility of a FM transponder as well, so that if people want to remain in their cars, whether they stay over in the side fields, parking lots, they can still tune their radio in to hear the live music while they watch the fireworks.
Yes, sir. If you're not comfortable, that's something we're working on now. The couple acts that we've reached out to don't have that capability, so that may be something that we rent ourselves or even look at in purchasing, so we can have that in the future. But we want everybody to be safe. If you are comfortable in that surrounding, we would be more than welcome to have you guys out. But if you are not comfortable, we still want you to have the ability to enjoy the festivities also.
Does that same rule apply for the movie in the park?
Movie in the Park will be, I believe, on the field, or will be out there in the open, so people will be able to social distance and spread out, but it won't be an FM transponder yet.
Yeah, that one is actually going to take place on the football field. When we usually do a drive-in, they have that capability. But since we're going to utilize the front parking lot for the block party, it's going to kind of take that out. That's one of our future plans, is to have a drive-in. But I think the football field is such a good area that people can gather, but then still distance themselves also.
The poured concrete slab looks amazing.
Boys do good work, don't they?
They did a great job.
Yeah.
That's,
Yeah, we're in the process of looking to run some more electric out there, get them a couple more plugs and some lights under that. I don't think I mentioned that the senior center at this point is to remain closed the whole month of June. We're kind of waiting for the governor to come out and go by his mandates.
I'm never gonna get my yard sale.
And with the senior center, that's tied with GNRC and the grant money that we get with them. So if we go outside of those guidelines, we do jeopardize that money as well for their budget. Any questions? Thank you, David. Next up will be Ms. Phyllis Rogers with Finance.
Good afternoon, Mayor and Aldermen. You have the year-to-date financial report up through the end of April. Any questions about the report? Just to give you a little bit of information what's going on in the finance department right now. We have already been taken over by the auditors. Last week we had them for a few days. We had them today. They're doing all the preliminary work, and then they'll come back probably a couple more times before we close the year, and then they'll come back in for about a week in August, and then we'll work on the reporting part of it from August to November. Water billing is super busy, answering lots of emails and texts and calls and stuff about various water issues that any customer might have. Just everybody's getting back in the swing of things and working hard.
With some flooring,
The what?
with some flooring.
Oh, okay.
Was I supposed to say that, or was that a surprise?
No, I didn't. You didn't say what they were there for, so I wasn't catching on there. But yeah, the finance department is looking into getting some new flooring. Our carpet's pretty old in the back there, and it's real stained. So
You're being kind. That carpet is garbage.
yeah, so our maintenance part of the Parks and Rec department will be working on that for us a little bit of a time at a time till we get that done.
Any other questions? Thank you, Phyllis. Moving on to the library, Miss Donna Bebout. She will be with us in just a moment. There she is.
She's strutting.
Mayor, Vice Mayor, Alderman, good evening. It's so good to see you all. I had to take the mask off because I've known by my smile, so I wanted to make sure that that smile is there. Okay, here we go. Friday, March 13th was the last day the library was open to the public. The closure, of course, was necessary to ensure the safety of our patrons and our staff. Lorna and I, at 4:30 that afternoon, were struggling and panicking and trying to call every little girl who was coming to the American Girl Tea Party on Saturday. Of course, again, that was canceled for safety. We only postponed it. We will have another date as soon as things get back to normal. So we're looking forward to that. During the time that we were closed, the staff worked really diligently cleaning and sanitizing the library to make plans for the future reopening. We've had a couple of times when we thought we were going to reopen, but it has not happened yet. So during the closure, we have several projects that have been or will be happening. One thing is the power washing of all the exterior areas to be painted outside or trim. The exterior painting includes trim, gutters, and downspouts. Now, I didn't know, Glenn, okay, Glenn has a picture of a before and after of the entry. Okay, if you can see, that was before. Look up, that's looking up, that really high ceiling. Spider webs, dust, bugs, stuff that we just could not get to. It was just nasty. And then the after, look at that. Is that not amazing?
A lot better.
They power washed, they painted, the painters were amazing. They did an excellent job. Every time the staff and I go out now, we look up. It just looks so good. So we're very excited about that. Another project that's coming along are new floors for the restrooms and the staff kitchen. Really excited about getting into that. This is a good time to do it while we're closed down, because we're going to have to, listen to me, the maintenance is going to have to pull up the toilets, and then we got to get the floors all up and everything and get them back down. So this is a good time. Something that we're going to put in permanently to help for the safety going forward, we're having tempered glass shields are going to be placed at the circulation, reference, and children's desk. It's going to be done in such a way where it's not like we're behind a wall and we don't want you over here. It's a nice, going to be a beautiful window that's going to be all the way around the desk. It's going to have a good opening that's still going to maintain our safety and the patron's safety, and we'll be able to still slide books underneath and still do all the transactions. So we're looking forward to that. Now, while we were closed, the staff, of course, brainstormed on different ideas that we could still interact with the public. And one of those things is the curbside pickup. Well, we're really excited. That's a way of providing library items to our patrons. So the building may be closed to the public, but the library staff was very excited for the opportunity to serve them. So we have a picture of our first curbside service day. This was yesterday. Those were some of the bags that we had already packed. I'm not going to read all of the details, but basically our patrons get online, they reserve books, DVDs, music CDs, audiobooks, and then we pull the list. We go out and we pull those items. We put them in a bag, very nice. We tuck in a few more little goodies like a bookmark and some ways of how to renew online, how to reserve online, and how to use our RB Digital. And then when we have it all ready, we call the patron and we say, we have your things ready. And you can pick them up between 1 and 6 p.m. Monday through Friday, or 1 to 4 p.m. on Saturday. So then we hang up and we wait, and then the patron, when they get to our building, they'll see a sign out there with our phone number, and it says press option 2, which takes them straight to the circulation desk, and then they'll call and say, we're in the parking lot. And so using safety measures, our staff will put on their mask and their gloves, and they'll take the bag. And here was our first delivery. That was Becky with our patron Joe. And Joe was so excited. And Becky was on our team that got this all going, and so we were really excited about that. But this is a first for Laverne, and it's a first for a lot of libraries, and it's working. It's working really well. Today was day 2, and the staff was waiting. They wanted more people to call. They wanted to pull more books. So tonight I asked the public, please, get online and reserve some books, or if you don't feel like getting online, call us and tell us kind of what you like, and we will help look up and find some things for you, and we'll put them on reserve so that you can come and continue to be a part of the library that way. We are asking patrons when they return the items that they would actually get out and put it in our outside book drop. That's for safety reasons also, because once the books are put in the book drop, then a staff with gloves and a mask on will take those books, put it on a cart, and that cart is quarantined for 2 days. It's put away so that no one touches it, so that it can sit there and all the little viruses, if they're on there, will go away. And then after the 2 days, we sanitize the books front and back, and the cases, especially of DVDs, and then we check them in. So because we're waiting on checking some of these items in, we are not accruing fines for the patrons at this time. So if you're a little bit late, we hope that you bring your things back within 2 weeks because you want more stuff. But if you're a little bit late, don't worry, no fines are being accrued, and we are taking care of the items to make sure that you're safe when you do check out more items. Our main goal is to open the library as soon as deemed safe for our patrons and our staff. Now, summer reading 2020, it will happen somehow, some way, sometime. It may not be in the summer, but it's going to happen, and we will definitely keep you posted. So do we have any questions?
Donna, you said yesterday was y'all's first day. You had about 25 different families?
We had closer to 50 families.
50 families?
Yes.
Wonderful, wonderful. That's a great start. And then I know, at least for the board's information, I know you've been working diligently with Melissa, our new grant writer.
Yes.
On quite a few library-specific grants that can impact our library.
Absolutely. One is the big one, the CARES grant, that will really help us out on a lot of different items that we are using during this time.
Any other questions? Thank you, Donna.
Okay, thank you.
Moving on to the water treatment plant, Mr. Greg Purcell.
Good evening, Mayor, Vice Mayor, Board. We treated 122.3 million gallons of water in the month of May, delivered 107.1 million gallons to the citizens of Laverne. We started our unidirectional flushing at the end of May. Those weekly updates of streets are coming out via Facebook and I believe online. Since we started late in the month, we did do 69 sites we flushed. Our TOC removal was 57.2%, 3.81 times better than the requirement of 15%. Our disinfection byproducts, the highest numbers we had were just over half of the maximum contaminant level. So we're continuing to see those trends of the low numbers. Any questions?
Anyone have any questions? Thank you.
Yes.
Moving on to Public Works Department. Mr. Garland Russell, I see him walking up now.
Good afternoon, Mayor and Alderman. This is for the month of May 1920. We had a total of 131 requests for brush pickup. We picked up 834 different residents with 84 loads, and that gives us a little over 252,000 pounds for the month. We are running 2 brush trucks at this time. The people just, with all the storms we had, and then the brush was there, and then while we were off for the pandemic, and then we was there in Mount Juliet for a week or so, helping them clean up some, so it's put us way behind on everything. We started getting the inmates back, I think 2 weeks ago. They don't go in any buildings, they come in our shop and put their lunch up, and then they go straight out picking up trash. Anytime they're in the vans, they wear their mask. We had a total of 134 work orders for the month. Fleet department, we had 28 vehicle repairs, 26 in-house and 2 outsourced, 13 preventive maintenance. Equipment repair was 6, the fire department 4, with 4 hours for the fire department. Questions?
How's our paving crew doing?
Well, they're through for the year.
They're done? No more paving?
Not till after the budget.
The budget?
Yeah, we're pretty close on it. Now, we've been out 2 days last week patching for water sewer. Then the plant shut down. We have only 3 people there on Mondays and Fridays, so we do it Tuesday, Wednesday, Thursday. We're gonna be doing it tomorrow because we were 35 or 40 that they've done over the winter months with the plant not opening. But since we have a contract through Rogers Group, we're gonna be buying tomorrow and the next 2 days from Vulcan Materials out of Murfreesboro. It's just a little longer drive, but it's basically around the same price. But
I just get a few questions and that's exactly what I answer them. Maybe for the folks at home that are watching now, they heard you saying it. They'll know that, I'm not.
I usually have some done in the fall after July, and then we save some till after winter months to finish up on it.
I just know I know you know it.
Yeah.
And I'm just running off, but man, we need some bad, a lot of places.
I've got it down, but
I know.
Some of it for next year, but it's subject to change, some of it.
I understand.
Garland, I have to say, I was out driving yesterday afternoon and the day before. I was over on Blair, and I know with everything going on with the pandemic, y'all were able to get out there and get Blair completely repaved, striped. Looks absolutely amazing, and I know several of the residents have reached out to me thanking you guys for it because it looks so much better than where it was. So good job on that to you and your whole team.
Well, we just took it down so far with the project that's coming in. I didn't want to carry it all the way to the city limits. Because of where they were going to do that. So.
I seen where they.
But that got the majority of everything out of it.
Apparently, there's some big dump trucks running on it now since it's nice and smooth, so it's kind of wearing the shoulder out.
There's not really much we can do about that.
I know.
They're gonna go wherever they go, and the easiest way to get there.
Any other questions?
Hey, Garland, on the brush truck, we're running both trucks, like you stated. So as long as the weather's good, that's a beast to tackle, right?
Oh, I got one. I don't care if it's raining. He puts a raincoat on and keeps going.
Okay. And then Murfreesboro's up and taking everything?
Yes.
They're back open? Good.
Like I said, we had a total of 250.
Yeah.
Now, we run it, on Mondays we run one, and on Fridays we run one. And then Tuesday, Wednesday, and Thursday we run 2 with the split shift we got.
Wonderful.
Because we've got some that works Monday through Thursday and some that work Tuesday through Friday.
Now, let me reiterate that 252 that you mentioned, that's 252,000 pounds of brush.
That's 84 loads and an average of about an hour when they get loaded. It's like with the states back there at the end of Stones River. I know we had the big storm. A half a mile of road in there, and it took him 2 days to clean it up. But it's just, I can't tell people exactly, when we're gonna be there because, I had them call from Fergus Road, it may be a month before we get there. It may be longer. Just depends on what's out there.
Well, it's like eating an elephant. How do you eat it? Bite by bite.
Yep, that's all we can do.
Thank you, sir.
Anything else? Thank you.
Next, we have Utilities Department, Mr. Michael Dietz.
Mayor Alderman, good afternoon. You have the report in front of you there for your review. Be happy to answer any questions you may have. One thing I'd like to touch base on just quickly, you know, we had leak detection that was taking place throughout the city. We was able to wrap that up at the end of May. There was 43 leaks that was found by Richards Meat Management. The majority of those have been repaired. We tried to, you know, fix them on a basis of, you know, or how bad they was first, along with other calls that come in on a daily basis. So, gonna keep it quick. Any questions you may have, I'll be happy to answer.
I have a question, but it might be a silly one for you, but
Yes,
I don't
ma'am.
know. Have you noticed with people being home more that there's more problems with in the water department or
Not
not?
necessarily in water, but yes, ma'am, you know, on the sewer side, I would say so. Typically, with the grinder pumps, we'll see a volume of calls come in between 3 and 5 o'clock. However, with people being home throughout the day, red lights are on, we're receiving a few more calls on that end of the things.
Other than that, things are pretty normal.
Yes, ma'am.
Just to kind of piggyback off that, because it looks like our mainline repairs are a little up.
Yes,
Is there
sir.
a specific reason for that?
Well, again, back to the leak detection program, for say the mainline breaks, we actually only had a couple.
Okay.
Those were main leaks that were found. During the leak detection, it was either a bell leaking on a gasket or just small leaks that was going undetected that we was able to repair. The reason we report them or put them in the report as a mainline break is because we have to complete the paperwork for TDEC to stay compliant. So it's just easier for paperwork. It was a mainline. We did have to valve it off. We did have to sample, all those things.
What's the latest on that? I know we had death by 1,000 paper cuts, basically little tiny small leaks, and I
Right.
know that you guys have been working aggressively on that. Is that getting better over time?
It's gradually gotten better, and we do see a rise at times, and then it'll drop. Last check, I believe it was around 18%.
We're getting closer.
Yes, ma'am.
Any other questions?
Michael, I have a comment. Normally, when we pave roads, we get water breaks.
Right.
That's how it
Yeah,
works.
unfortunately.
You get a nice new paved road,
Right,
you get a water break. So we hope that don't happen.
right.
You know,
Our goal is, we have discussed that, you know, Mr. Garland and myself have discussed it as well as administration. Jefferson Pike, for example, Adam during the retreat and other times had discussed, we're gonna pave a road, maybe, you know, we put the water line in first and then pave the road. So those are options, but, you know, that's drives the cost up significantly, so. that's
Costs
a-
money.
Yes, sir.
Thank you.
Yes,
Any
sir.
other questions? Thank you.
Thank you.
Human Resources, Ms. Cheryl Lewis Smith.
Evening, Mayor, Vice Mayor, and Aldermen. I'd like to just give a few informational pieces for Human Resources. The department has performed and coordinated interviewing and testing for various positions: police, fire, public works, administration. And of course, we're very heavily involved with the COVID transition discussions on both a state and regional level. And we're even involved in some national discussions with MTAS, TPMA, IPMA, our benefit vendors, internal groups, helping out with the traffic court transition, modify work schedules. And again, looking at the facilities for testing both new hire and diagnostic screenings and performing virtual meetings in all areas. We have been working on the benefit renewal for public entity as far as workers' comp, liability, property and casualty, and crime. And then we've been heavily involved with accidents and incidents being reported, whether they're city vehicle damage issues or storm-related issues with trees, public works, mowing, trimming, things of that nature. And then compliance training that and other city-related functions that were planned for this past spring had to be postponed. And so hopefully we will be able to resume those activities in the fall. And again, we're just wanting to make sure that everybody is safe during this pandemic. Any questions?
Questions from the board? Cheryl, I want to thank you and your staff. Y'all been so much assistance in helping with all the changes, whether it's from federal or state with FMLA and some of the COVID benefits that have just basically came out, and then we had a few weeks to respond, and then going through and helping to facilitate both internal and external positions. Thank you and your staff.
Thank you.
Thank you, ma'am. Moving on to old business, second reading 2020-03, an ordinance to amend the City of Laverne zoning ordinance by changing the official zoning map of tax map 14 parcels 36, 36.01, 36.02, and tax map 14F, Group A, parcel 1.01, consisting of approximately 9.05 acres, located adjacent to 301 Bill Stewart Boulevard from a R1 low-density residential zoning district to a PDR, planned density residential zoning district, with a R3 high-density residential-based zoning district. This received a favorable recommendation from the Planning Commission on January 28th, 2020. I'm going to make a motion to deny, and the reasoning for that is a couple. One is, I've got concerns with this from the aspect of how we maintain it as a 55-plus community, whether that's through covenants, which is something that the city doesn't enforce. That would be a civil matter. On top of that, there's property values in play, both Hollandale Estates as well as Webb Estates, which is a new area back behind that. I'm concerned with that. I think density and the zoning also is a bit of concern. I know that surrounding this, outside of the trailer park, which is R4, there is R2 just to I believe the northeast, and R1, and then agriculture. We actually don't get down to R3 until we go past the R2 by about 4 or 5 lots. And then location as well. Usually you have amenities near this in regards to both traffic for bus routes that are accessible to people. You also have access to groceries, physicians. AHIPA, I think, I honestly think Mr. Schreibman and I were thinking along the same lines, because I'd been thinking about them recently, where AHIPA, whenever it was built right behind where many of us know Food Line used to be, which is now Planet Fitness. And then right next to it, the next parcel over, is Signature Health, which is all walking distance for many of those residents who are there. Do we have a need for senior housing in the city? Absolutely. I think we have a need, but I've got some concerns about this. So that is my motion and reasoning. Need a second.
I second.
Second from Alderman No. Any reasoning you'd like to give?
I think the citizens have pretty much spoken. They don't, enough's enough.
Okay. Mr. Cope? Any issues with any of the reasoning from a legal perspective that you see?
No, sir.
Thank you. Any other discussion?
I'd like to just get on the record of saying that I do understand your reasoning on that. I understand the individuals that came forth. I understand their reasoning on it, but we really should walk lightly on this, because, as I said, a precedence has been set. We've got a situation where this has been in the works for a little over a year. We've got favorable recommendations, and I think this is something that should have been caught in the Planning Commission. It should have never gotten to this level. But with that being said, that's how I feel about that.
Thank you.
As far as the discussion, I guess I have some things I want to say too. I moved here as a child in first or second grade. I think it was first grade. I'm 44, and that was a long time ago. This town was a small town back then. I lived on Minerva Drive. Many of you are familiar with that area. It's been discussed in this room before. The population at that time was roughly 7,500 people. It's probably around 40,000 now. I guess we'll find out this year with the census. Our family moved to Laverne because we wanted more of a country living atmosphere. We moved from downtown Nashville. I lived off of Dickerson Road, which if you've been there, you know why we were wanting to move. This town has grown a lot since I've been living here, and I've loved every step of it. I've welcomed the 32,500 new neighbors that I have, and I'm happy to have them. And the fact is, we cannot stop growth because Nashville is going to double in population in the next 10 years. That is the prediction that's already been put down. So far, this board has been very, very cautious about allowing any new developments because we want to do it the most logical way, the most ethical way, and definitely I think that we've done that. But to deny a senior living facility, which is probably the easiest step to allow growth, I think is probably not our most progressive move. It is, the community is going to grow. Whether we grow it by forcing more and more families to live together, or we do it by letting people have individual units, this community is going to grow. So if you're against the growth, the problem is that you're not going to get it your way. Unfortunately, this community is growing. So we have to look at what's going to happen 10 years from now. Now, I've heard some complaints tonight that some people felt like the seniors could not afford this housing. That's okay, because the market will bear what the market will bear. That is a decision that Amnon has made in his business plan, and he feels like, as a businessman, that he will be able to rent those units. That's not for us to say whether he will or not. I believe that he would. So I just wanted to say my piece. I think that we're going to grow whether or not we approve this development.
And Alderman Jones, I do want to acknowledge your comments. Absolutely, I agree. This should be something that was caught in Planning Commission. Literally, there was a phone call just yesterday afternoon with some conversation to both our city planner and our city attorney with some of this thought process. And I hate that I did not think of it earlier, and it was just off of a chance conversation almost with a different resident on a different subject, but it still applied. And again, there's concerns there because with these covenants not being able to be enforced by the city, that's a concern to me because 1 year, 5 years, 10 years, 20 years, 30 years, if Mr. Schreiben sells that property to somebody else, then who's to say they don't open that up and allow anyone? And then, there's another apartment complex in Laverne. So that's part of my concern, along with the others. Is there any other discussion?
Yes, please. Mayor, I definitely understand your point, and I recognize what you're talking about, but this is a concern that we've addressed with other communities. Some have a homeowners association, some do not. My personal community had not. It used to have one, but by the time I moved in, it did not have one anymore. And so it's not held to the same standard that some that have a homeowners association are, which is one of the things that I personally love about my neighborhood is that it's just codes. City codes is what I have to comply with. I don't have to comply with a homeowners association, which probably will have more stringent codes. So I think to deny that for that reason is probably not a well thought out reason.
Any other discussion? Okay. Alderman Church.
To deny?
Yes, to deny. Alderman Jones?
No.
Alderman No.
Aye.
Vice Mayor Brown?
No.
I vote aye. Motion passes. Moving on to second reading ordinance 2020-04, an ordinance to amend the fiscal year 2019-2020 general fund. Need a motion to approve or deny.
Motion to approve.
I have a motion to approve from Alderman Jones. Need a second?
A second.
Second from Vice Mayor Brown. Any discussion? Alderman Church.
No.
Alderman Jones.
Yes.
Alderman No.
Aye.
Vice Mayor Brown.
Aye.
And I vote aye. Motion passes. First reading ordinance 2020-05, an ordinance to amend Title 7 and Title 12 of the Laverne Municipal Code to adopt the following standard codes: the 2018 International Building Code, 2018 International Residential Code, 2018 International Plumbing Code, 2018 International Mechanical Code, 2018 International Fuel Gas Code, 2018 International Property Maintenance Code, 2018 International Fire Code, 2018 NFPA 101 Life Safety Code, 2018 International Energy Conservation Code, 2018 International Swimming Pool and Spa Code, 2018 International Existing Building Code, 2018 International Private Sewage Disposal Code, 2017 National Electric Code, and ICCA 117.1-2017 Accessible and Usable Building Facilities. I need a motion to approve or deny.
Make a motion to approve.
Have a motion to approve from Alderman Jones. Need a second?
A second for discussion.
Second from Alderman Church. Open the floor up for discussion.
I'd just like it for the record to be added that the adequate fire service that we have is below standards. And we've heard that both from our fire personnel, and anytime we take a code out of something, it just increases the risk of life safety and property damage. If you'll add that to the record, please. Thank you.
And I'd like it stated for the record then that, of course, we're following state law when it comes to not having a mandatory sprinkler automatically adopted in. There are ways that that can be put in through the state, but they statewide remove that as part of the automatic acceptance process. Any other discussion?
And next year, we'll be doing it 2019. Does it always run behind, or how does that work?
Well, we adopt these every few years, so it's not every single year. And it depends on how we're able to process with it and what changes are made. Any other discussion? Have a motion to approve in a second. Alderman Church?
No.
Alderman Jones?
Aye.
Alderman No.
Aye.
Vice Mayor Brown?
Aye.
I vote aye. Motion passes. First reading. Moving on to number 6, second reading ordinance 2020-06, an ordinance to amend Title 8, Chapter 3 of the Laverne Municipal Code regarding special event beer permits, and to amend Title 20, Chapter 2, Section 20-203 of the Laverne Municipal Code regarding Parks and Recreation prohibited acts. This received a favorable recommendation from the Beer Board on April 28th, 2020. Need a motion to approve or deny.
Motion to approve.
I have a motion to approve from Alderman Jones. Need a second?
A second.
Second from Vice Mayor Brown. Any discussion? Alderman Church.
Aye.
Alderman Jones.
Aye.
Alderman No.
Aye.
Vice Mayor Brown.
Aye.
Motion passes. First reading, ordinance 2020-07, an ordinance to amend, or an ordinance of the City of Laverne, Tennessee, adopting the annual budget and tax rate for the fiscal year beginning July 1st, 2020 through June 30th, 2021. Need a motion to approve or deny.
I make a motion to deny.
I have a motion to deny from Alderman Church. Need a second? I have a motion from Alderman Church to deny. Need a second. That motion fails. Open the floor back up to any other motion.
I'll make a motion to approve.
I have a motion to approve from Vice Mayor Brown. Need a second?
Second for discussion.
Second from Alderman No.
There's obviously some concerns about the budget. I think that you've worked hard on it. I'll give you that. You and Bruce, I guess Phyllis, whoever's been doing it. But unfortunately, we do need, there's some things in there that I'm not crazy about, but I think we need to pass this, and so we can move forward, let the employees get their cost of living raises and move on.
Any other discussion?
Yes, I have a question. What are the things that that you were concerned about, Alderman No?
The money about the land,
That's not part of this budget.
the 900,000,
No, sir, that's part of the 2019-2020 budget. This is the 2020-21 budget. So that money was part of last year's budget.
and what about the upcoming, we don't know how much money we're gonna spend on the other property yet.
What other property?
The other land down there, there's two pieces of land, correct?
We've already, by the roundabout?
Right.
We've already purchased both this year.
And neither one of those are in that budget.
They're not in this budget for ordinance 2020-07.
I guess I misread it then.
Okay, any other discussion?
And Mayor, in your opinion, are we planning on doing a budget amendment for the new fire station?
I don't know. We're not even close to that level. As I said at the workshop, of course, we're still in negotiations with the church on land donation. We haven't even sat down with Chief Beasley to discuss this with him yet. So at this point, I don't have a time frame.
How close are we to that?
At this point, we're not. At this point, we're still negotiating on land. Once that's determined, that'll be brought before this board.
What I don't want to see happen is have a $23 million budget, and then we need another $8 million to prepare for this fire department in the same year.
Okay. Well, at this point, nobody is suggesting that.
And how much are you are preparing in this budget for the engineering for the new Public Works complex?
The new Public Works facility is out of this fiscal year, this current fiscal year. And that's part of your packet.
And that was
for
the engineering
consent.
part of it.
Yes. Any other questions on the budget? Okay. Alderman Church.
No.
Alderman Jones.
Yes.
Alderman No.
Yes.
Vice Mayor Brown.
Yes.
And I vote aye. First reading passes. We will have a special meeting on June 23rd, and there will be a public forum for the second reading of the budget. Moving on to the consent agenda, I need a motion to approve or deny.
Make a motion to approve.
I have a motion to approve from Alderman Jones. Need a second.
I second.
Second from Vice Mayor Brown. All in favor? Aye. Any opposed? Moving on to new business, Resolution 2020-06, a resolution to write off water department bad debts. Need a motion to approve or deny.
Motion to approve.
I have a motion to approve from Alderman Jones. Need a second.
I second.
Second from Vice Mayor Brown. Any discussion? Alderman Church.
Aye.
Alderman Jones.
Aye.
Alderman No.
Aye.
Vice Mayor Brown.
Aye.
I vote aye. Resolution passes. Moving on to appoint or remove committee members. First, we have the Construction Board of Adjustment and Appeals. We have one position open, and we have one applicant, John Rutledge. I will appoint him to that board. All in favor?
Aye.
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 Any opposed? Moving on to the Local Emergency Planning Committee. We have 3 vacancies, and at this point, I'm going to recommend we only we appoint Chris Clark to the vacant RCEMA position, and the others we will leave vacant until we actually have those staff members in place. All in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
And then last but not least, we have the Planning Commission. We have Jimmy Favorman, who is moving out of the city, has resigned from that board. I will appoint Diane Sanders to that position. Now moving on to Mayor and Alderman comments. Alderman No.
I got nothing. My seniors are still closed up. I can't promote, I can't invite, I can't do anything.
Thank you, sir. Alderman Church.
Oh, man. I have so much to say. So, I think the people in Laverne have spoken, and we are listening, and it's important for you to know that. When you see a lady in her 80s get up here and fight for her community, to me that has a value to it that there's no dollar amount could change. Being an alderman or a mayor or an elected official, it comes with a lot of different surprises. You know, the builders put money in campaigns on certain individuals on this board, and it's clearly, you see how they vote. So we need to remember that this November. And Laverne is owned by the people. And the builders and developers, they have a right and they should be treated fairly. They've done some amazing things in the community, and they've done some not so amazing things in the community. But when they leave, we're still here. And it's our responsibility to make sure that we do have a place for Boy Scouts, Girl Scouts, and the almighty dollar should not change that. And I was overwhelmed with the response from the community on the rezoning property. I had 3 people that was for it, and I had over 70 that was not for it, that personally contacted me, 30 by email. So the decisions we make, you know, the street name on that development was actually named after a city employee that retired here, which is Bill Wolf, which was my grandfather. And nothing would make me more proud to have a street named after him in the city that he gave so much to. So when you say we have to make decisions, it was a decision that was in the best interest of the community, not in the best interest of Matt Church. Because if it was in the best interest of Matt Church, I could have voted yes, and the street would have been named after my grandfather. So I want you to understand that when you go to the voting booth. And again, I'm just happy to be here and serve this community in the position I'm in. Thank you.
Alderman Jones.
Yeah, where do I start? Okay, I would like to say, first of all, I need to get a clarification. I would like to give a clarification as to my concerns with tonight's vote. First of all, as I stated, this should have never come to this board. It should have been caught at the Planning Commission's level. And if someone as enthusiastic as they show themselves to be, that's in the Planning Commission, it should have been caught by the individual that's there. That's true, we do have a duty. And every year, or every 4 years, about this time, every 2 years, because we have 2 years, we always start to talk about the builders and the contractors and the mighty dollar. And I would like for you to know, if it weren't for the individuals, if it weren't for the mighty dollar, we'd still be having those trees where all those houses are built. We've got to have the money in order to flourish. And it's not like we're out pimping our city to get it. We're putting something in here that's going to give back to the city and help the city. So I don't you know, I don't know why I got off and went into that direction about it, but, you know, it forces me to have to comment on a situation like that. I also would like for my colleagues up here to please do understand that it's an old saying, and it's a true saying, that, you know, the squeaky wheel gets the oil. But we got some quiet running wheels too that need to have some attention given to them. It's some citizens that didn't have a problem with it, but do we need to truck them down here and spend another 2 or 3 hours of them saying how they feel about it? It's a yes or no. And tonight, the plan was not set forth, and we can accept that. We don't need to brag on it. We don't need to sit here and stick our chests out and boast about it. It was accepted. Let's be adults about this, and let's move on. My main concern is, as I stated the night of our workshop, every person in Laverne that's been here that knows the people of Laverne knows that one of the aldermen that voted tonight should have abstained himself. It should not have happened, but they didn't. So we're going to go on with this. And if you think the almighty dollar is something, if there is a need, if Adnan wanted to vote, wanted to build that, and he wants to fight it, he could put this city up, and we could be in court fighting over it for the next, you know, till somebody runs out of money, which would be a long time. So let's just go ahead and we're going to see what they want to rewrite their plans on, because one thing I do know, as the vice mayor said about growth, it's going to happen. We either going to put those apartments there, we might put the 19 houses there, but as far as what I've heard tonight coming from individuals, it sounds like we need to concentrate more on how people driving that make it dangerous than the fact that the roads are crooked. My car has a steering. I can turn them. I don't understand how you're going to blame something on the roads being crooked, but that's neither here nor there. We need to understand that, you know, these builders, they're putting in their money to build these homes. They're not going to just sit back just because we say, no, you can't put this there, and say, well, I'll just let a tree grow there. Something's going to be put there, because they're not going to let that land just sit there. And then all the other, those were wonderful suggestions coming from people to put them in other places, but you got to sort of own the place that you go and put the stuff. If the land's already gone, you can't just up like Monopoly and say we're going to move this over here. You know, some of the emails that I've been getting that pertain to this, that ironically enough, most of them said the same thing. I mean, font for font. But, you know, if individuals are concerned about the now I know Ms. Mayor, I've seen her at every committee I've ever been in, and again, like she said, she's 80 years old, and she comes out and she cares about her community. People need to start coming to these planning commissions. You need to come to the most boring ones. You need to don't just come because you think there's going to be fire. Come to all of them if it's concerning you, so you can get your voice out there and we'll know it. And then people like these builders won't sit on a project for over a year and then have to go back and start back over. So those are the things that we have to take into consideration. And no, it's not about, we're not, this isn't Washington, and we haven't got the hundreds of thousands of dollars that they give to those people up there for the lobbying and everything. You know, 9 times out of 10, I fund my own campaign because it's easier, the paperwork's easier. And also, if someone's gonna give you something and they're expecting something, there's a problem with that with me. So I don't, you know, even though it was insinuated, that doesn't happen with me. So again, to make a long story short, like it's been said, let's start coming into these meetings. People need to come to the meetings. And I can guarantee you one thing. I got people that send me, I get my emails mainly the day or two before we go before a hearing like this, and I have to do a vote on it. You feel free to send me, if you want to get my opinion on something, I can guarantee you that I can give a better one than what they're saying on Facebook about me, or what they're thinking that I'm saying, or what they think I think. So get in touch with me, and let's not go on and do the speculation. And also, on another note, Mayor, I think that we skipped over something tonight. We had an individual here that said that she had gotten in touch with you, that she wanted to come before, and I don't think they knew the rules of the meeting. But I was told that she had gotten in touch with you, Miss McRae and her father that she had gotten in touch with you. So I wish that I'll talk to y'all after this meeting and let you know if you'd like to come back. But I do apologize. We have the rules that must be followed. And had I known that that's what you were here for during the public comments, I would have let you know that was the time to come up. I do apologize for that, but I look forward to y'all coming back, and we'd gladly love to hear you talk then.
Thank you, Alderman Jones. Vice Mayor?
It has been a rocky couple of months. I know that I'm not alone when I say I am just exhausted. I am tired of the COVID thing. I'm tired of looking at everyone like they may have a germ I don't want. I don't want them looking at me like that either. I'm tired of being home. Tired of not being able to go out, and it's just now starting to open back up. The economy's been hit really hard. I think we're all a little bit stressed, a lot of bit on edge, and then we have other things going on in our country that are heartbreaking, absolutely heartbreaking. And I think now is a time for us to gather together as a community and just love on each other just a little bit more than normal. Maybe not say such harsh things to one another sometimes. Sometimes it's okay to scroll past a comment that you don't like. And sometimes it's okay to say, hey, that's not nice. And sometimes just turn off your Facebook. Because when it all comes down to it, we're a community. One of the things that I love about this community is that some of our staff, our police, fire, and EMT, went down to offer mutual aid to Murfreesboro when they were having a peaceful protest that could have turned into anything. We've seen different things happening in Nashville and throughout the country. And I'm glad that we have that relationship with our neighbors. One of the things that I'm concerned about, Chief Walker commented on about the crime rates, is domestic violence. That's something, when you're in a domestic violence situation and you're in a quarantine where you're stuck at home with your abuser. And it sounds real easy to say, if you're not in that situation, oh, just leave them, go somewhere else. But where do you go in the middle of a pandemic? Where do you go if they're the only ones controlling the purse strings? Where do you go if you have children that you need to protect also? There's a lot of domestic violence that's going on in this community. And we need to love on those people, too, that are suffering through that great indignation. It is a terrible blight on our society, and it's something that we as a community need to gather around and support our victims. Instead of victim shaming, let's start shaming the people that commit domestic violence, people that are beating up on their spouses. It's time to stop that, too. And as far as the rezoning of the property goes, I would just like to say that we did have 4 people that came to speak out against the rezoning. I did receive a number of emails against the rezoning. We also had 3 speakers that were for the rezoning request. And I can tell you one thing as an elected official. Happy people do not send me emails. Happy people do not call me up. I have very seldomly, in the last 6 years that I've been elected, had anyone just call me up and say, I am so happy with Laverne right now. It is the best place to live, even though it really is the best place to live. So we have to balance our decisions sometimes with the other 39,000 and however many that have not reached out, or the ones that say, I'm fine with it, when we ask. So just wanted to clarify that what we hear from is not a representation of all of the people that live in Laverne. With that being said, just love on one another, and thank you.
Thank you. I'm not going to retread through a lot of what's already been discussed. I'm going to hit on just two points. One, I am working with our Rutherford County Health Department and Kroger Health, and we should have, in probably the next week or so, a date and times for free COVID testing for anyone in the community that wants to be tested. And had some conversations today about that. As soon as we have that information, we will be releasing that through all of our social media, alert systems, email, to get that out to the public so that those that want to be tested can. We want people to be as safe as possible, so if you have concerns, we're working on bringing this to Laverne as it has been in other parts of our county. The other thing I want to touch on is the murder of George Floyd. And I know we talked via email some, and quite frankly, it is a murder to me. Plain and simple. No human being, regardless of who they are, deserve to be treated that way. And I hope and I pray that those men are actually prosecuted to the fullest extent of the law. I've talked to men and women in both the fire department and the police department. They absolutely, this leaves a bad taste in their mouth. Not a single person I've spoken to supports what they have done. That's not something I don't think anybody on this board supports. And nobody in our community, I believe, supports. People have an absolute right to be disgusted with this. Not just upset, but disgusted, because no one deserves this, period. Absolutely. I went up to Murfreesboro, saw several of our men and women with the SWAT team assisting Murfreesboro, got to see what was going on with marching at the square, and then I watched some coverage of the follow-up protest the following day. Peaceful protests absolutely are a cornerstone of our whole culture and government. Absolutely. I 100% support that, because if you don't make a change, quite frankly, change isn't going to happen. And that's why, as I've said before, it's up to the elected officials to listen to people in our community on what they need. As far as if there's a systematic problem, we need to fix it. If it's not something here at the local level, we need to work with our state reps. We need to work with our federal reps. We've had all of them either in this building or on this property at some point in the last year. But we should absolutely be supporting that process and facilitating it however we can. Sorry, this gets me upset. But with that, I'm going to call this meeting adjourned. Yes.
Mayor, I got a question. I'm sorry. Can you, I don't know if you've got the calls, can you follow up or let us know about this recall on these masks that the state gave us? Did you get any further information? I can't find any.
I've been in contact with both Dana with the Rutherford County Health Department as well as Valerie in the governor's office. So the governor's office doesn't have any clear guidance on it, and we've held off distribution on that as a result. At the same time, going through and looking at the information that was going on, DuPont, who's the chemical manufacturer, says that very small quantities of that is used on these masks, that they're not harmful. The pesticide and anti-pesticide group says they could possibly be. So you have basically, I would say, you have the personal responsibility. If you choose to put that on your face, put that on your face. But ultimately, your individual safety is on you. we're holding off on distributing them just until we get clarification, and that's not just a Laverne, Tennessee decision. That's not just a Smyrna decision. Countywide, we have all stopped distributing these, and I'm sure other counties have as well.
And Mayor, can you get
Till
me
we
up
get
to speed
clarification.
with this, since I have one of the masks on that you dispersed? This is something new that I'm not aware of. And if it's something that we need to put out as our PIO.
This is something the news put out already, and
Laverne
has
has
been,
handed these out to individuals, families, and,
most of Tennessee has.
well, I'm worried about Laverne right now, so can you get me up to speed what's going on with the mask?
Well, there is a potential pesticide that is used in small quantities with the masks, and that's for antimicrobacterial to maintain that, as far as to kill those and to maintain some freshness. So the manufacturer says that there's no concerns. Again, an anti-pesticide group says there could possibly be. But in the news article covered by News Channel 5, there's no data that states they are dangerous, that they aren't dangerous. They did not go into that. They just went to this group and to the manufacturer.
So as mayor, do we need to let our citizens know, do not use the mask, or it's okay to use the mask?
Well, again, we don't have the informed decision to sit there, like, we don't have all of the study information. And again, we've reached out to the county for that. But ultimately, it's going to be up to each individual. I spoke with a woman earlier today who, she has one, and her response is, well, you know what, I'm just gonna wash it a couple of times, and I'm gonna put it out in the sun to air dry, and I'm gonna use it from there. Each individual should do what they deem is appropriate for their own health.
Evan, is this something that we should put out an announcement, since we handed out the masks, maybe they need to wash them?
Well, I mean, it's something the city could do, but I mean, I think what I understand the mayor's saying is that the city doesn't know. I mean, if the state purchased the masks, and that's my understanding, is the state purchased them, and that here they're distributed. I mean, the city didn't have anything to do with manufacturing, but, I mean, there's no harm in telling people not to use the mask if you don't want them to, but again, the city, it's speculation at this point, and the city's not the party in contact with the manufacturer of the mask. So anything that the city would know or not know would be second or third hand.
And speaking again to Valerie earlier today with the governor's office, once they have some type of announcement, they plan to make that. I also spoke with Dana with the Rutherford County Health Department today, and she has received essentially the same response and said if they hear anything on their end, they will notify us as well.
And then the city will pass that on?
Yes.
Yeah.
I heard if you wash them a couple times, they should be fine.
I can't give any, because I know
Yeah,
none of that. But with that, I'm calling this meeting adjourned.